Pokemon X is a notoriously easy game, but today I wanted to change that, so I made some modifications to make it more difficult. All Pokemon are randomized, all abilities are randomized, all of the opponents have been given optimized movesets, as well as important trainers being given extra Pokemon and held items. All gym leaders and the Elite Four have been randomized, but will still have a type theme. I just have no idea what that type will be. All the TMs in this game have been randomized, and on top of all of this, we will be using the rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke. Meaning that we will be forced into level caps for gyms, 1 encounter per route, no items in battle, and permadeath. So let's get right into it. We start out by meeting all of our friends, choosing a nickname for ourselves, and discover our starter choices. Between Ursaring, Superior, and Nidoking, I choose to go with Superior due to the high speed stat it has, as well as the good early game moveset. We name her Medusa and are sent back home, but before being able to go back home, Shauna challenges us with the Ursaring we left behind. We start by using Wrap to get residual damage on Ursaring while tanking a Hammer Arm pretty well. The next 2 turns we use Vine Whip while Shauna opts to use Fake Tears and we get our first win of the run. Afterwards, I go to look at the stats of Medusa to find she has the ability Multiscale. Debatably one of the best abilities out there, which allows us to take hits better while at full health. This will prove to be quite the strong ability due to the amount of healing moves that grass types naturally get. The next place we end up going is Route 2, where we are able to get our first encounter of the game. In the grass, we run into a Spheal, such an adorable little guy. Sorry, gal, who happens to have Intimidate. We immediately throw a Premier Ball because the first encounter on this route is always a guaranteed capture in this game, and we add Selkie to the party. The trainer at the end of the route is no problem, and we move on into the forest. Santaloon Forest offers us an Onix to add to the team. It could be potentially a good team member if it evolves into a Steelix, so we pick it up. Currently, it has the ability Immunity, which does not really offer much for us. We go to fight youngster Joey, who seems to have tamed the God of Time. It didn't cause any problems for Medusa, but I just found it funny. In Route 3, we find and capture Kyoto the Patrat, who has got the Gooey ability. On Route 22, we go for our next encounter, which turns out to be a Skrelp, and name it Hippocamp. Before being allowed to attempt the next gym, there's a skater out front who just gets demolished by our Onix. So Past Me forgot that the gyms are still themed and led with a Spheal for Intimidate against the Psychic types. Viola leads with a Gothita though, which I'm not worried about, so I go for Powder Snow, which seems to do almost no damage. And I end up getting locked in by Mean Look. Then I try to see if a gem boosted water gun will do any more damage, but Gothita uses Calm Mind, and we don't deal that much damage. Then a crit confusion that almost does all of our health forces me to accept the fact that we have lost Selkie. I then make the correct decision to bring in Kyuso to use Bite and kill Gothita. Viola then reveals her Mew, which we try to bite, but it doesn't do much damage, while Mega Punch does massive damage to us. The Mew turns out to have a Flame Orb equipped, so I swap into Onix to tank damage. After a long war where Mew transforms into Onix, we stand victorious with a decent amount of buffs. Ranunculus is next and ends up almost taking out Onix, but it is not successful. Woobat is next, and believing in the one-shot from Rock Tomb ended up getting me killed, marking the second death of this battle. Lunatone then is brought out, and I try to use Skrelp, but Lunatone is unfortunately faster and kills Hippocamp. At this point, my only hope is Medusa, so we bring her out, hoping for the best. And luckily, Lunatone and Solrock both chose not to attack. Ultimately, some sacrifices had to be made to keep us going, but I definitely made some mistakes here that I'm going to need to prevent from happening in the future. On our way to Lumios, we pick up a Tynamo named Abia, which I misspell. We also happen to pick up a Metal Coat, just so that we can be reminded of our previous failures. In Lumiose City, we head to the lab where Professor Sycamore wants to give us another starter, but before that, we must prove ourselves in battle. His lead Ducklet was nothing against a single volt of electricity. Cubchoo chose to not really attack and went down. Girder, though, was where things got a little complicated. Now, for some reason, it had Future Sight and Milk Drink, moves it normally shouldn't get. I'm pretty sure that when I set up the ROM to include TMs in the opponent's movesets, it ended up taking from the randomized TM list, meaning many Pokemon will end up having moves that they normally just wouldn't. So yay, extra difficulty due to an error in my randomization. Anyways, Medusa is able to finish Girder off, Sandslash is one simple blade of grass away from death. And finally, he has a Pansage, which only takes a couple of turns to go down at the hands of Medusa. This next set of starters that we are given are Dwebble, Hippopotas, and Golduck. After thinking on it for a little while, I choose to go with Dwebble due to the type variety that it will offer. We name him Carcinus and move on. On Route 5, we find a wild Charizard just hanging out in the grass. After throwing a good number of balls at it, we are able to catch it and name it Sayru. After catching Charizard, I realized I forgot to look at Dwebble's ability, so I look and discover I got Normalized. An ability that makes my moves normal type, meaning we gain no type coverage like I had planned. So now it's currently planned to be used as death fodder if needed until I can evolve it. On this route, we have a fateful run-in with Tierno. He leads with Aggron, which on its own is quite scary, but Medusa is ultimately strong enough to take it out with a couple leaf tornadoes. Then, Tierno brings out the big guns. Yveltal. So, you may think that Tynamo should be perfect here, but you would be wrong. A single hurricane does so much damage and confuses us, so we have to swap out. We go out to Kyoso and use Detect to protect us from Razorwind, but Tackle just does no damage, so we go out to Charizard to maybe deal some damage. Ultimately, that doesn't work, and Sayru immediately goes down from a hurricane as Yveltal just does not miss. Desperate, I send out Carcinus, but the little guy doesn't stand a chance. I bring Tynamo back out just to get some damage, but he goes down as well. I end up back at Patrat to do something, but we are outsped and die. All we have left is Medusa. All we can do here is spam Leaf Tornado and pray for accuracy drops. First hurricane hits us though, but Multiscale helps keep us alive. He misses quite a few more in a row, but on his last turn, he hits us and brings us down to 10 HP. Finally, he goes down and we are fighting a Blastoise. We miss our first Leaf Tornado and go down to 5 HP from Covet. On the next turn, we barely miss the kill, giving Blastoise the chance to end us. But for some reason, he chooses not to. He goes for Astonish, which we live and the run is still alive. That was quite rough. So, for the second time in this video, we are already rebuilding our entire team. We go for an encounter at Route 6, but unfortunately killed the Delibird given to us. We finish up stuff at the mansion before getting our next chance at the encounter being the static Snorlax. It turns out to be Nidoqueen, which we catch and name Hera. On Route 7, we get a Horde encounter and choose to get Hephaestus the Pignite. Then we end up in a long double battle against Tierno and Trevor, where nothing really happened. Inside of the connecting cave, we catch Ogama the Froakie, and on Route 8, we encounter a Slacking, a potential powerhouse of a teammate, but I forgot to get Pokeballs. On Route 9, we catch Vulcan the Clang, then head over to the Glittering Cave, where we accidentally kill a potential Cobalion. Yes, I know I have a problem with killing these potential god tier teammates, but I promise, it gets better, just keep watching. Inside of the cave, we fight some Team Flare Grunts and help the fossil researcher get out alive. He ends up giving us the Sail Fossil, and when we go back to revive our fossils, we receive Mothra the Venonat and Khepri the Scolipede. We then move on to get our Silent City encounter, which I end up passing on, because the Manaphy is hurting us quite a bit. Then on Route 10, we get a Pancham that I crit and kill, but that's okay, as we've got a pretty good team as is. Gym turns out to be Fairy type, so for Grant I go with Clang, Pignite, Scolipede, Frogadier, Nidoqueen, and Superior. I lead with Khepri, while he leads with Klefki. It sucks that the start is the one Pokemon I can't hit, so I swap to Hephaestus for the type advantage. I end up being able to raise my speed some with Flame Charge before killing the keys. Then it seems Grant is not playing games anymore and brings out Xerneas. I try to use Fire Punch for big damage, but it comes back to haunt me as Head Smash kills Pignite. We then bring Khepri out to finish off the Xerneas. He also ends up taking my entire family out with Poison Tail. Then is Togepi, who goes down after 2 Poison Tails. His final Pokemon is Carbink, who we bring in Clang to defeat with Gear Grind. It sucks that we lost Pignite, but this went much better than last time, so we'll take it. Then on Route 11, we catch King Tut via Mask, and in the Glittering Cave we run into a Stantler, which took way too long to catch, and name it Octean. We find out it has Contrary, which is a potentially interesting ability if we can get the right moves. Inside of Shalor City, we fish up another encounter, which turns out to be Thor the Heliolisk. Then inside the Mega Evolution Tower, we are forced to prove our strength strength against Serena. She leads with a Mudkip while we had Thor in the front because I forgot about this fight. We send in Vulcan to deal with the Mudkip while raising my special attack. Then Sawsbuck comes out for revenge and deals solid damage, but so do we with Gear Grind and take it out in 3 turns. But we were brought down to quite low health in the process. Unpheasant is next, and we swap in Hera since she has Icicle Crash. But unfortunately, this Unpheasant decided that she wants to use it first. Panicked, I swap in Ogama to finish off the Unpheasant after 2 turns. Crobat is Serena's next Pokemon, and Ogama does not deal enough damage, and we end up having to swap in Medusa after getting a confusion with Water Pulse. We then set up Leech Seed and spam Leaf Tornado until everything eventually worked out. Finally, Serena sends out her starter Nidoking, and we send in Scolipede, as everyone else on the team is quite weakened down. We use Screech to lower defenses, and we are eventually able to win a War of Attrition and take down Nidoking. Next up, we go to grab our encounter over on Route 12 where we catch Demeter the Hoppip. This gym is ice typed, so for the battle against Karina, we go with a team of Frogadier, Heliolisk, Clang, Stantler, Yawmask, and Scolipede. I lead with Clang, while she leads with Walrein. Walrein starts by paralyzing us with Stun Spore while we miss a Gear Grind. We then end up locked into Gear Grind and eventually take it out. Next up is Beartick, who has Magma Storm, which does insane damage to us, but he ends up going down after a second Gear Grind. We swap out against the Vanillix over to Stantler, but its Dynamic Punch almost one-shots us. We then go over to Scolipede to deal some damage, but Icy Wind is really hurting us. Ogama is then brought out next, but the combination of healing and bad luck with confusion makes it take way longer than expected, but does eventually go down. Then Acelio is brought out, and knowing Ogama can't do anything, I make the decision to send in Octaeon for the sacrifice, so that Thor could be brought in safely. When Thor is brought out, we start spamming Parabolic Charge for big damage and the amazing healing it provides. After Celio goes down, Cloyster is brought out, who we use the same strategy against. Her final Pokemon is then revealed to be Weavile, who goes down after a combination of Parabolic Charge and Thunder. Since we have beat the gym, we are now able to access Mega Evolution and receive one of Karina's Lucario, who ends up really being a Heracross. He unfortunately has weak armor while in regular form, which kinda sucks, but we'll probably only end up using him while Mega, where he has Pressure, a solid ability. We name him Ares and add him to the squad. We're also able to get an encounter from a man on Route 11, where he gives us an Oddish named Flora. On Route 13, we pick up Dionysus the Swirlix and head towards the next gym, where Serena challenges us. She has quite the weak team this time around, composed of Vibrava, some Flora, Drifblim, Nidoking as usual, and finally a Slackoth. Inside the next gym, we run into an unfortunate battle where we quickly discover that the typing for this gym is Ground by fighting a Groudon, but that is not what killed one of our Pokemon. No, Landorus is the demon who killed King Tut right before he was able to evolve. Luckily, no one else died as Ares avenged his fallen comrade, but this one really hurt as I was looking forward to the potential Cofagrigus on the squad. Though, this is the unforgiving nature of a Nuzlocke. Since this is a ground gym, we should be able to do well, but we prep anyways and go with the team of Jumpluff, Gloom, Frogadier, Swirlix, Superior, and Heracross, since these all do well against ground. Ramos leads with his Palpitoad, one of the few Pokemon that could be a problem for our lead. However, after getting hit by Surf, he U-turns out to Steelix. Steelix immediately goes down from a single Surf. Next up is Nidoking, who gives us quite a close call. Surf does about 95%, but it has an Absorb Bulb, which raises its special attack, and then it goes for Magical Leaf, which does pretty good damage. Ramos heals once again, but this ultimately doesn't end up mattering. And next up is an Onix who gets one-shot by Surf just like the Steelix did before it. We then are able to one-shot a Krokorok with Surf as well. Palpitoad is brought back out, but only for it to be immediately taken out. Now, Ramos' final Pokemon is Numel, who gets one-shot by Surf. This marks a first for this challenge. Finally, a gym leader does not murder a single member of our team, as well as being completely swept by a single member of our team. We then head over to the power plant, where Dionysus ends up evolving, as well as Ogama. While going through the next gym, we are able to determine that the typing will be Fire. With this knowledge, I grew quite scared of the battle ahead of me. Most of the Pokemon I have right now are weak to Fire in some sort of way. Venonat, Scolipede, Gloom, Jumpluff, Clang, Heracross, and Superior are all weak to Fire, leaving us with only Greninja, Nidoqueen, Heliolisk, and Slurpuff to take out the gym. After much time searching for any possible place that I could go, I found out there was a place I could go. There is a very small part of Ambrette Town that is able to be fished in, so I head over and send my rod into the ocean, looking for a savior. And what do we reel in? A Zygarde. A legendary that not only resists fire, but can deal super effective damage. After 15 minutes of struggling, we finally catch the Zygarde and name it Naga. For this gym, we go in with the only Pokemon I have not weak to fire, as well as the Venonat for if something unfortunate happens. We lead with Nidoqueen, while he leads with a Torchic. It goes down after 2 body slams. Next up is the Pokemon whose name I refuse to say. He confuses us and then goes boom, which kind of just makes sense. Next out is Houndoom, which we send out Dionysus to deal with, since healing is great for this type of challenge. We do end up swapping out to Ogama to finish it off though, since the dog is very strong. Volcarona swaps in and becomes Greninja, so we bring in Heliolisk. I end up forgetting about my own ability and take damage from Liquid Ooze. We swap back in our Ogama to hopefully take it out, but he heals up. We end up bringing in Naga, but he gets the read and starts up an Ice Burn. This situation kinda sucks, so we bring in Mothra to do his job. We are then able to deal good damage with a Lance Wrath while he starts up an Ice Burn. We bring out Thor with a Prayer, but he ends up missing and we finish off the Volcarona. He then brings in Heatran, which is not fun for us. We do have Naga still at full health though, so we bring him in for the easy one-shot with Lance Wrath. And for his final Pokemon he sends in... nope, not gonna say it. I am not gonna say it.
We've got the twerp this time.
Be careful, James. I heard he's got Slugma.
Slugma?
Slugma balls!
Lance Wrath kills the Pokemon on screen and wins the badge for us with minimal deaths. On Route 14, we end up battling Serena once again, but this time her team posed quite little challenge. Hoopa went down from Vulcan, Golurk was taken out by Ogama, Masquerain was taken out by Thor, as well as a Stunky. Finally, we reached Nidoking, which is taken out by Naga. While on the route, we catch Unicorn the Rapidash, adding it to the team. We make it to Silage City and run into a Heatran in the water. We try for quite some time to catch it, but I forgot that I had the Rough Skin ability on Naga and accidentally kill it. The Silage Gym turns out to be Dark type, so we just go in with the team we've got. Valerie leads with Houndoom while we use Dionysus, since Draining Kiss should give us good survivability. After 2 turns, she heals up, but we are able to bring it back down and get the 4 shot to KO it. Scrafty is next, and a single Draining Kiss does massive damage and heals us up to full. An Energy Ball finishes it off on the next turn. Next out is Sharpedo, so we go into Thor. Magma Storm does pretty good damage, but Parabolic Charge does even more. Another Scrafty comes out, so we bring in Ares to deal with it. After Mega Evolving, a single close combat brings it down. The Dino that she brings out meets the exact same fate, and we are reintroduced to the monster that hurt us last time. As the PTSD kicked in, Thor was brought in to charge up and hit him with a massive thunder, earning the badge. Fitting that we have to face our previous demons for this badge, but it is telling us how much we have grown since then. Now with so many encounters available, we go right for it. Route 15 offers the behemoth that is Tyranitar to us, but I forgot Naga's ability once again and accidentally kill it. Then inside of the Lost Hotel, we find a Cyndaquil and catch, naming it Peel along the way. It evolves and ends up with the Plus ability. Not great, but we add it to the team anyways. On Route 16, we find and kill a Chansey that probably wouldn't have been a lot of help anyways. Inside of the Frost Cavern, we capture a Scyther named Beelzebub. He ends up with the Mold Breaker ability after evolving. Inside of the Frost Cavern, we run into Team Flare, where, admittedly, many bad things happened. Petal got locked into a losing battle against Latios due to Shadow Tag. Thor lost the coin flip and got one-shot by a Dynamic Punch. Dionysus is one-shot by a Gunk Shot from Feraligatr. Ogama barely misses the kill on a Keldeo and gets finished off by a Judgment. These are some quite huge losses if I'm being honest, and rebuilding our team from here was quite tough. We end up bringing back a few OGs to the team, namely Medusa and Vulcan, as well as the newly caught Poseidon found on Route 17. We make our way into Anastar City, where we encounter a surprise rival battle against Serena. Scizor is able to deal with the Butterfree no problem. Naga is able to deal with the Mew she picked up, despite the close call with Explosion. Naga is also able to take out the Nidoking with no trouble. Vulcan gear grinds down the Clefable, and Medusa is brought out against the Metagross that went to swim lessons for the potential stall with Leech Seed. She almost dies, but Poseidon finishes it off. Poseidon then ends the battle with a Surf to an Apom. No deaths, which is quite lucky considering she had quite a powerful team this time around. Anastar Gym turns out to be water typed, so the team we go with is Scizor, Zygarde, Serperior, Jumpluff, Kling, and our newly evolved Blossom with a special emergency move. Olympia leads with a Slowbro. We chose to lead with Beelzebub, so it goes down after 2 turns. Politoed is next, but an unfortunate Fire Punch is the end of Sizzler. Since Medusa has multi-scale, I bring it in, but 1 Leaf Blade takes it out. Then Relicanth starts spamming Brave Bird while we begin setting up with Coil. Eventually, we take him out with a Leaf Blade. Next up is Mantine, who goes down the same way. Olympia then sends out a Slowpoke, and our game plan does not change. Her final Pokemon is Bibarel, who gets one-shot by Leaf Blade. We had an unfortunate death there, but oh well, what's one more grave at this point? Moving on with the story, we end up in Cafe Flare, which leads to another unfortunate circumstance, where we lose Unicorn, Hera, and Medusa. This is probably the biggest death we have had. I have always been able to rely on Medusa when battles got tough, but we must move on. A new team is assembled, and we run through the rest of Cafe Flare, moving over to Geosenge, where the ultimate weapon is being brought into action. Lysander then challenges us to a battle. He leads with Jumpluff, who is an easy one-shot from Icicle Crash. He then brings out a Cofagrigus just to rub salt into the wound of a lost member. Our newly evolved Vulcan then deals the finishing blow to Cofagrigus. Naga then proceeds to take out Eluxio, then a Buizel, then a Raikou, and finally a Banette. While navigating through the laboratory, we find the legendary Pokemon. We encounter it, and it is Dialga, God of Time, who we catch in a Quick Ball and name Kronos. He replaces Demeter, joining the team. Lysander then wishes to see the power of Xerneas, whatever that is, and challenges us with a brand new team. He starts with Diggersby, while Kronos pushes himself to the front of the party. Since he has Aura Sphere, Diggersby is no problem. We then take out a Mankey with Aura Sphere as well. Stunky ends up going boom, taking itself out, and then an Execute is taken out by Naga. Khepri comes out to murder the fat cat, and then it is revealed that Lysander is a true Nintendo fan and brings out Charizard, a Pokemon that is super effective against almost the entire team. After a lot of shuffling around, he ends up going down due to a discharge from Vulcan. Before the next gym, we catch Percy the Blastoise and Kalamosh the Slowbro before running into Professor Sycamore. He leads with his Leafeon, who is one-shot by Brave Bird. Slowbro heals some before taking out the Nosepass next with Dive. Then Huntail is taken out by a Dragon Breath. Naga then proceeds to wipe the rest of his pathetic team before we are allowed to move on. Now, we have a few more encounters available. Firstly, we catch Cerberus the Growlithe, then revive a fossil which turns out to be a Shellos I can't nickname, then Naiad the Azumarill is next. Now, with those in our bag, we walk onto the bridge that is scary for every Nuzlocke, as we have 3 back-to-back rival battles. The first one is not too much trouble, as we have answers for most of her Pokemon. The second one leads with the Darkrai, who seems to be scary at first glance, but is easily taken out by Aura Sphere. Fearow, Seal, Mr. Mime, and Stunky are all victims to Kronos' Flash Cannon, and that is rival 2 down. For the third rival, we have a Wigglytuff against us that is tough to hit, but ends up taking itself out. We take the opportunity there to heal. Skiddo is an easy one-shot, as is Floette at the hands of Kalmeosh. Kakuna gives us a chance to heal, but leaves us with the parting gift of Paralysis. His final Pokemon is Coughing, who goes down after a few turns from Zen Headbutt. Oh yeah, Kolomosh has Pure Power. That's why I'm running all these physical moves on him, just in case you were curious. And because this is Pokemon X and Y, we have even more encounters before the next gym. These include Bastet the Liepard, Sylph the useless Caterpie, who becomes even more useless through evolution, and Typhon the Trapinch. The gym is discovered to be Rock type, which is great for us since that is one of the few types we just actually win against. The team I go with includes Typhon, Naga, Kronos, Kalamosh, Poseidon, and Percy. Wulfric leads with a Dwebble, who is immediately taken out by a single Aqua Tail. He does not seem pleased and immediately sends in Regirock. I decide to set up Aqua Ring, fearing a potential stall battle, but I am immediately proved wrong as he just KOs Percy with a single Rock Riker. Kronos is able to come out and get revenge. Rhyhorn is taken out by a Flash Cannon, and a few turns later, Bastiodon is taken out by Aura Sphere. Next up is Aggron, who we also use Aura Sphere against, proving to be very effective. Then Barbaracle is brought out, and we do the exact same thing against it, leading to the final gym badge being ours. Only a single death on a Pokemon that I would consider to be fodder is not bad at all. We then enter Victory Road, where we find our final encounter of the run, a Cranidos. I absolutely love Cranidos and Rampardos. I actually did a challenge run with a solo Cranidos in Platinum that you should really check out if you haven't. but only after you finish this video. We already have a pretty solid team at this point going into the Elite Four and Champion, so using Rampardos would honestly not be too beneficial. With his low speed and defenses, he would not be able to provide much to the team. And am I really willing to risk the integrity of this run just to use a Pokemon that I think is cool? No. No, of course not. There is no way I would let that happen. Huh. Well, would you look at that? I would. After a few hours of debating, I decide that our best chance of winning is with the team Ragnarok the Rampardos, Naga the Zygarde, Typhon the Flygon, Ares the Heracross, Kronos the Dialga, and Kalamash the Slowbro. First up is Malva. She leads with Poliwrath while we lead with Typhon. I swap out the Kalamash and end up tanking 2 Judgments before taking it out. We then try and take out a Basculin, but it forces us to swap in Naga, who ends up finishing it off. Next up is Shelter, who gets one-shot by Fusion Bolt. Then Starmie gives us quite the scare with Powder Snow, so we bring out Kronos to finish it off. Totodile is given the chance to live a few turns before being smitten by a god. Then, her final Pokemon, Kabuto, is taken out, and we move on to Wickstrom. Wickstrom leads with Wigglytuff, which is not great for Typhon, so we bring in Kronos. Kronos then goes on to sweep through the entirety of his team, as they are all just one Flash Cannon away from death. Wigglytuff, followed by Gardevoir, followed by Diantha, and Diantha again, Mr. Mime, and then Whimsicott, who are all one shot by Flash Cannon. We are now halfway through the Elite Four with no deaths, which is quite surprising considering how many deaths we have had so far. Then we fight against Drasna, who leads with a Hitmontop, while we continue to lead with Typhon. Just like last time, we end up needing to swap out because close combat does too much damage. Kalamash takes it out with a Zen Headbutt. She then sends out a Machoke that seems to know Zap Cannon, so we bring in Naga to take him out. The rest of Drasna team is pretty weak, so we win the battle with ease. Or at least I thought that I would be saying that, but this Monferno has Minimize, and I just could not hit him for the longest time. Eventually though, an Earthquake takes it out, and we beat the 3rd Elite Four member. Now it is time for the final member of the Elite Four, Cybold. He brings out his Parasect that we immediately Rock Slide. For some reason though, they let this zombie crab play with Dry Ice, which almost killed Typhon. Immediately we swapped out to Kalamash because of her bulk. The Quick Claw activates and we are able to one-shot with Brave Bird. Durant comes out dealing big damage, but we heal up. We then bring in Ares for his first moment in the spotlight, as a single close combat is all it takes for that bug to go down. Venipede is next, and Strength almost one-shots, but it ends up taking itself out with Double Edge anyways. Next up is a Caterpie that goes down from U-turn, and we are able to bring in Ragnarok. We go for Icicle Crash and almost one-shot Burmy, but Cybold heals up on the next turn. After that though, we end up taking it out. Another Venipede is brought out, and we take it out with Head Smash, defeating the final Elite Four member with 0 deaths on the board. Now we can finally challenge Diantha. But before that, I have to level with you. This is not my first attempt you are seeing. For some reason the footage corrupted after I beat her the first time, so I had to go back and redo the fight. My first time going through the fight went really well. Luck was on our side and we actually had no deaths. But the second attempt, well, let's say it was much different. She leads with what seems to be an Aggron, but it turns out to be a Magnezone in disguise, who goes down from a single Earth Power. She then brings in Swoobat, who puts up quite a fight, but ultimately goes down to a crunch. A misclick against Druddigon, resulting in using Earth Power instead of Dragon Claw, which almost spells the death of Typhon, but we are able to bring in Naga to finish off the Druddigon. The little spider Ariados comes out and takes big damage from Dragon Pulse before Famfi was swapped in its place. It goes down after 2 Dragon Pulses, and Ariados comes back out only to quickly perish due to Rough Skin. Now she really brings out Aggron, who Mega Evolves, and we bring out Ares to counter it. When Mega Evolved, this Aggron gets the ability Speed Boost, which will turn him into Sonic the Hedgehog after a few turns. Ares comes close to taking it out, but is knocked out in the process. I gave Ragnarok a fighting move though, so I bring it out as well. It gets off some damage while Diantha heals, but its poor defenses lead to Iron Tail one-shotting. I then try Earthquake with Naga, but it doesn't deal enough damage and goes down. Next, we bring in Kronos to try and bring it down with Aura Sphere, which ends up proving effective, even though Synthesis was being used to keep him alive. And with that, we have completed Pokemon X. Now, for the burning question, did this make it any more difficult? Well, not really. Most of the troubles that I ran into came from me making stupid mistakes. And despite all these mistakes, I was not punished aside from losing a Pokemon here or there. The game gave plenty of encounters that allowed for me to build quite a powerful team, though that part might have just been luck. I play Pokemon games wrong quite frequently on the channel, so if you want to see any other way I've done that, then check out this video where I played Pokemon Emerald with only Vigoroth. The name is Leoro, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.